All right, welcome, guys. We have 6 NBA games to talk about. I hope you guys are having a good Tuesday so far. If you guys are new to the channel, new to the live stream, how this works is we'll take a look at what we know so far, take a look at the Vegas odds, and then I'll go team by team, talk about the players I like, and then we can get to questions at the end. So on for about 30 minutes here. Let's jump into what we know so far. So right now, off the back, we have Daniel Tice ruled out. So Boston is going to be a little bit thinner in the front court. We'll talk about a couple plays I like for value. Kyrie Irving got ruled out. That's pretty big news, right? With no Kyrie, no Kevin Durant. Now James Harden obviously becomes a really good spend up and, increases the chance of a blowout. We also have Andre Roberson signed and will be available. Now, will he play? We don't know for sure. Let's see. Maledon is available to play now, so the Thunder are getting a little bit healthier. And that's what we got so far. We're still waiting on Denver news, starting lineup news. We're still waiting on Monte Morris news. We should get that soon, though, which is nice. That is the early game. So taking a look at the Vegas odds here, we have Denver and Boston, a 222.5 over under. The Celtics are 2-point favorites. Pelicans and Grizzlies, a 231.5 over under. The Pelicans are 1.5-point favorites. Raptors and Bucks, a 236 over under. The Bucks are 6-point favorites. Lakers, T-Wolves, a 223 over under. The Lakers are 6.5-point favorites. Blazers and Thunder, a 226 over under. The Blazers are 5.5-point favorites. And Nets, Suns, 227 over under. The Suns are 7.5-point favorites. All right, so we'll start off with Denver and Boston. So again, a little bit tricky to break down right now, but the Monte Morris news is actually really, really big. He is currently questionable. If Monte Morris plays, I think he's a good value if he starts. No, he won't have as high of a usage, kind of playing the shooting guard, but he would still be someone I'd be interested in for value. Now, if Monte Morris is out, then it really makes Hampton and Campozo good value plays because, these guys, Hampton, last 4 games have been hovering around the 20-minute mark. Campozo played really well off the bench, played 26 minutes. I would assume those two would have to play some good minutes, especially if Monte Morris is out. So those two value plays would look to if there's no Monte Morris. And then we do have Paul Millsap out, so JaMychal Green, I'm assuming, starts at the 4. If he does, I think he's a good value at 4.3K. Probably get mid to high 20s minutes for him. Nanji, ZK Nanji, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He actually played well. That last game played 24 minutes. I think he's someone you could look to as a more, contrarian GPP value play. And then we have the main guys. So with, again, no Barton, no Millsap, no Gary Harris, no PJ Dozier, possibly no Monte Morris. I think Nikola Jokic is one of the best spin ups for the slate. Now, you got to make some tough calls here because there's a lot of good spin ups, right? We have Harden with no Kyrie, no Kevin Durant. We have Giannis with no Drew Holiday. We have LeBron with no Anthony Davis. There are a lot of good spin ups on the slate. Again, you got to make some tough calls, but Jokic is firmly in play with those guys. I really do like his upside here. Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. in play as well. More suited for GPPs. Now, Jamal Murray, again, we just know his up and down nature, right? He's got 40-plus fantasy point upside, but he's also got a somewhat low floor. And Michael Porter Jr. was, I don't know why he was chalk that last slate. I didn't really get it, but he was chalk. He should probably play around 30 minutes. Again, does have upside, but also has a somewhat low floor like we saw that last slate. So Denver is definitely a team that is very, very interesting for the slate. Again, dependent on some news right now. We're still waiting on that Monte Morris news, which we don't have yet. But we should get that soon because that is an early game. And moving on to Boston. So Boston Celtics. Big news is no Daniel Tice. So Tristan Thompson, I'm assuming he starts at the center position. We know Denver is a big team. They can't really afford to go small ball. So I think Tristan Thompson's a really good value play. Now, my one concern here is, potential for foul trouble against Nikola Jokic. But he's at a cheap enough price point where I'm willing to take that risk. So I do like Tristan Thompson a good amount. And then I also really like Robert Williams, too. I don't think they can go small ball and go like Grant Williams at the 5 versus Jokic. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be a combination of Tristan Thompson or Robert Williams. I don't really think they can go Semi Ojeleye at the 5 either. I mean, I guess they could try, but I think their best bet is to try to go Thompson and Robert Williams. So Robert Williams is actually in intriguing GBP play here. I'm assuming Tristan Thompson starts, but we know with Robert Williams, it's just a matter of will the minutes be there because he's a good point per minute guy. There's some games he'll play 5 minutes. There's some games he'll play 20. I could see this game with no Daniel Tice. I could see him pushing for maybe 20 minutes. If he does, again, the minutes are never guaranteed. I hate Brad Stevens because his rotations are just so inconsistent with the bigs. You never know what's going to happen. But if the minutes are there, if I knew Robert Williams was going to play, let's say, 22 minutes tonight, I would lock him into all my lineups if I was making multiple lineups. Lock him in because he's that good of a point per minute guy. It's just a matter of will the minutes be there? And then you have the top guys, not really interested in the other value. Kemba, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum all look pretty solid. If I had to pick one, it would just be get up to Jason Tatum. I know he had a bad shooting game that last game, but Tatum's a guy that'll play 35 to 40 minutes. It is a good matchup. So yeah, if I had to pick one of the Boston Stars, it would be Tatum. Brown and Kemba are viable as well, but they don't really stick out as an amazing place. All right, guys, one game up, one game down. We are at 300, almost 350 viewers, 40 likes. I appreciate that, guys. Can you hit that like button? And hit the subscribe button if you haven't already as well. Let's aim for 100 likes on this video. Okay, so moving on now to New Orleans and Memphis. The New Orleans side is just a tricky team when they're fully healthy. Are Ingram and Zion priorities for me? No, but I think they're both good filler plays. Like if you have 8,500 left and you need one guy, I think landing on Ingram or Zion Williamson is perfectly fine for me. Both have played 36, 37-ish minutes. Both have gone for over 40 fantasy points in back-to-back games. It's a decent matchup, too. So I think both Zion and Brandon Ingram are solid plays. Again, are either of them priorities? No, but I do think they're both good options. So they're just not guys I'm going to go out of my way to play. Lonzo, Bledsoe, Adams, Adams has been losing minutes at times to Hernan Gomez. 3 of the last 4 games, 22, 22, and 20 minutes, and some of those games were close. So that obviously is not great to see. Again, Hernan Gomez, if you think he gets extended, again, he's a decent point per minute guy, even though he kind of busted that last slate. You can look there in tournaments, but they're basically fully healthy. Josh Hart, 4-6, I guess is all right value, but not a priority for me. On the Memphis Grizzlies side, so getting healthier as well. Brandon Clark back, so that does take a hit to Jonas Valanciunas. He was only on pace for 27 minutes. JV is a good point per minute guy, and we saw 45 in basically 26 minutes last game. So I think he's still in play for tournaments, but with Brandon Clark back, not really a cash game play. I do like Ja in tournaments. I know he's kind of let down the last game in a great matchup against Sacramento. It was just, partly due to a blowout, partly due to Dylan Brooks just shooting lights out to start the game. That's why I was really frustrated that night. I still do have some interest in John Morant. I still think the ceiling is 40 plus on him, and I think he will be lower owned. Slow-mo, Brandon Clark, Dylan Brooks, all just like filler guys for me. Grayson Allen with no D'Anthony Melton and no Desmond Bane should play around 30 minutes. The issue is the price is coming up to a point where it's like, okay, almost 5K seems right for Grayson Allen. All right, 2 games up, 2 games down. Let's refresh. Let's make sure we're up to date here. We got Toronto and Milwaukee. This is definitely going to be a fun game to watch. Should be pretty entertaining for DFS purposes as well. So the top 3 guys, Van Fleet, Siakam, and Lowry. At least one of these guys is going to have a good game if the game stays close. It's a really high over-under. Again, my issue with these guys is they're just all up and down. And there's no rhyme or reason to who really goes off. So I always, if there's a decent enough price difference, I'm just going to go with the cheapest one. So, right, Lowry, $700 difference with Siakam, $800 difference with Fred VanVleet. I will just prefer Kyle Lowry. But I would not be surprised if this is a Fred VanVleet ceiling game or a Pascal Siakam ceiling game. It's really hard to predict right now with those Toronto big 3 on who's gonna go where. Monte Morris is out. Okay, thank you. So that is really, really big news. Really, really big news. Now we need to see that Denver starting lineup, but Campozo, RJ Hampton are now 2 of the better value plays of the slate for sure. I really think this is now setting up for these stars and scrubs build. Right, there's a lot of good stars. We have Jokic. We have Giannis Antetokounmpo. We have LeBron with no AD. We have Lillard. We have Harden with no Kyrie and Kevin Durant. And now we have all this value. We have the Boston Bigs. We have the Denver guys. And I'll talk about a couple of Brooklyn guys I think are viable, a little riskier. But yeah, this is really now setting up, in my opinion, for these stars and scrubs build. All right, so Toronto, again, Lowry I've had to pick, but all 3 firmly in play. Powell, a little bit too pricey for me. Boucher, always you can go there in tournaments, but again, the minutes are very up and down. And that's really it. So not a ton I love on Toronto. I definitely think if you wanted to, you could stack this game for tournaments. You could go Lowry and Siakam or Lowry and Van Fleet, run it back with Giannis for GPPs. Again, this is, I believe, the highest over-under of the slate. 236 it is. So you can definitely do that for tournaments. On the Milwaukee side, I do like Giannis a good amount. Again, like I said, definitely setting up for the stars and scrubs build. 70, 65, and 74 fantasy points the last 3 games. Again, he's a guy that can stuff the stat sheet. So do like Giannis a good amount here. Middleton is viable as well. I think he goes a little bit overlooked. He's been subpar last 3 games, 44, 26, and 33. But we did see that one big game when Holiday was out. He went for 63. So not as high of a floor as Giannis. Obviously, Giannis is safer. But I think if you can't afford Giannis and you want a piece of the Milwaukee Bucks, Middleton is a guy you can settle on. I think he's a guy that does still have 40 plus fantasy point upside. So yeah, I do have some interest in Middleton. Value wise for the Bucks, not a ton I like. I think you can take a shot on Bobby Portis and kind of hope the minutes are there. And he played 28 in a close game, which is really surprising. We rarely have seen that from Bobby Portis. He's a good point per minute guy. So yeah, you can take a shot there and just hope the minutes are there for him. Okay, so moving on to the Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves. So with no Anthony Davis and LeBron James, also, again, one of the better spin-ups for sure. Great matchup. Missing a very high usage guy. I do like LeBron a good amount. I think he's a safe option with some upside. Now, Kuzma at 7K. I just have a hard time paying that price for him. Harrell at 6'2". I don't know if they're going to use him a ton against Cat, so that's why I'm a little bit worried there. I think Schroeder of like those mid-range guys would be the one if I had to pick. He's been terrible last couple of games, but I expect probably 30 to 32 minutes out of Dennis Schroeder in a good matchup. I think he's viable there. Gasol, again, he might have to play a little bit more to guard Cat, but he's just like, he barely does much when he's out in the court. THT is a high-risk, high-reward value. The minutes kind of been all over the place. I am a big THT fan, but there's no guarantee for his minutes. Caruso, probably play about 20. If you need a punt, I think you could do worse, I guess. KCP, again, he's got to hit his threes. Markieff Morris is a value guy I will mention. He started one game with no Anthony Davis, and then he came off the bench the other game. If he starts, I would have some interest in him for value. If he comes to the bench, he's obviously a little bit riskier. All right, moving on to Minnesota. So, Minnesota Timberwolves, Karl-Anthony Towns, I think is going to go overlooked in the slate. Right? We have a lot of good spend up. So, kind of like him as a contrarian spend up. I don't think he's an optimal play, but minutes slowly been ticking up, 31, 32, 33. Again, he's a guy that is a good point per minute guy. So, I do have some interest here in Karl-Anthony Towns. Beasley, I don't love the price on him, but he has been playing more minutes. Anthony Edwards and Rubio, kind of the same thing, just seem priced about right. The guy that does kind of stand out if he starts again is Jared Vanderbilt. He was in foul trouble and still played 23 minutes and went for 27 fantasy points. So he's a good point per minute guy. Now, I never feel super confident with Vanderbilt because the minutes are pretty inconsistent. We've seen games where he started and played like 15 minutes. So like that is in the back of my mind. Like a little bit worried about that, but if he does play 25 minutes, I think there's a good chance he gets you there. And last guy we'll mention, Jordan McLaughlin. He'll play the backup point guard, probably play about 20 minutes. Do you have to go there? Again, it's more of a contrarian play now with a lot of the value opening up. All right, let's see. Do we have any more news on Denver starting lineup? We got 2 games left, about a little over 10 minutes to go here. I do want to leave some time for some questions. So Portland, Lillard at the top looks really good. Again, you got to make some tough calls. Good matchup. This game should stay competitive. Oklahoma City, not a great defensive team, so I do like Damian Lillard a good amount. The rest of the Trailblazers, not a ton I love. Cantor, secondary option. The wings are all just like filler plays. If I had to pick one, I guess it'd be Gary Trent because he's been playing the most minutes, but he's very reliant on the scoring. I will mention with no Rodney Hood, no Harry Giles, I think Derek Jones Jr. is a guy that probably the minutes will be there, so he's in play for value. The downside is he's a very, very low usage guy. And then with no Harry Giles was playing the backup center. He was playing, 15-ish minutes a game. I would assume that goes to Nasir Little if you want to get really, really contrarian in tournaments. But I think that might be a little bit too contrarian for myself for my one lineup. On the Oklahoma City side, now with Maladon back, that really does affect everyone in this lineup. It is a good matchup. I think no one really stands out, and it's weird. I think Al Horford is a guy I would take a shot on in tournaments because he's a good point per minute guy. We've seen 43 and 56 in 2 of the last 4 games from Al Horford. Again, good matchup. Love the matchup against Enes Kanter. So Horford's a guy I think you can go to in tournaments. Diallo with Maladon back at almost 7K. Don't love it. Again, everyone just kind of seems just filler options. Again, with Maladon back, that's a guy he should probably, and we don't have the starting lineup, but I assume he probably starts at the point guard and probably plays, 25, 30 minutes. We'll see if they're going to limit him at all. So it really does take a big hit to the rest of the Thunder guys. So I don't know if one really stands out. Now, if you feel really good about one of these Thunder guys, then go for it. It's just another body in the rotation makes everyone kind of riskier, and they're all priced up for being, basically an 8-man rotation. Finally, Brooklyn and Phoenix. So on the Brooklyn net side, obviously Harden is one of the best spend-ups. No Durant, no Kyrie. The only reason I think you can fade James Harden is you think this game blows out, which is a possibility. It's a back-to-back. They're 7.5-point dogs. Definitely possible. But if this game stays close, if the Brooklyn Nets keep this game close and you do not have James Harden, you are going to be in for a long night because there's a really good chance he has a really, really good game. Now, secondary options for Brooklyn, this is where it gets tricky. Andre Roberson is not in the player pool, but he's available to play. If he does play, that's one more body in the rotation, which makes everyone a little bit riskier. Harris, Jeff Green, they just seem priced about right. Don't love either. Bruce Brown will probably start. Now, the minutes for him, he seems to start and always play like 20 to 23 minutes. So you never really get more than that from Bruce Brown, which, again, makes him just like an okay play. DeAndre Jordan, I think, will start at the center because Phoenix is a bigger team. If he does start, I think he's actually a safe play. Probably plays 25, maybe 30 minutes. They're kind of thin at the front court. So I could see DeAndre Jordan being a guy I look to for value. And then you just kind of have the GPP flyer guys you can take shots with. Guys like TLC, Shamet, Tyler Johnson. Do I feel good about any of these guys? Not really. But these guys all probably play 20-ish minutes. 24 for TLC last game. Shamet played 28. And Tyler Johnson played 23. So I'm guessing we probably get around 20 minutes for all those guys. They all have a pretty low floor. But again, someone's going to have to score the ball besides Harden. If you feel really good about one of those guys, you can go there. Lastly, Phoenix Suns. So Phoenix Suns, usually when they're fully healthy, I don't have a ton of interest, but this is different because the matchup. Absolutely love the matchup. So Booker, Paul, Ayton, all look pretty solid. I think if I had to pick, it would be Devin Booker. He's been playing the most minutes. I think we probably get 38, 39 minutes in a close game. So I do have some interest in Booker. And Chris Paul might be a little bit of the safer option because of the floor with the assist. I think he's looks good as well. And then DeAndre Ayton should be able to have his way against his Brooklyn Nets front court. So all three of the Suns I do like if you think this game stays close. Bridges, Crowder, Cam Johnson, Frank Kaminsky losing minutes. The last guy I'll mention is Dario Saric, who's probably going to get about 15 to 20 minutes off the bench. You can look to him for value, more of a contrarian value play. All right, so that is it, guys. Stay on for a little less than 10 minutes now to answer some questions. I do got to update some things with that Monte Morris news, but obviously Denver's the team you're going to want to look to for some value. 470 viewers, guys, 86 likes. Let's try to reach 100 before the end of the show. I would appreciate that. My gut says to fade Harden. Yes, you can definitely fade Harden. Again, there's a lot of good spin ups in the slate, and again, the way he doesn't get there is the blowout. Okay, I like Hampton more. Yeah, I think Hampton and Composo. Probably one of those guys will start, I'm guessing. We'll see what... Again, Denver's done some weird stuff with starting lineups before. Like, I would not be totally surprised if, like, Mike Malone starts Bull at the 2. Because we've seen that before. What about Composo? Yeah, I like Composo. I like RJ Hampton a lot for value now. Especially with no Monte Morris. They should get good minutes. Suns guards over Bruce Brown. Well, there are different prices, right? So which Suns guards? Like, the cheap Suns guards, I'm not really interested in. Ayton or Jokic for cash? Jokic. CP3 or Fred VanVleet. I'll go CP3 there. And Brown or Middleton. Give me Middleton. Harden, Campozo, Jones Jr., Jeff Green, Tristan Thompson, LeBron, Najee, Jokic thoughts. I think it's a decent tournament lineup for sure. If I play Booker, should I run it back with Harden? You don't necessarily have to, but it makes some sense. RJ or Campozo and cash, I would say whoever starts. I'm guessing one of those guys will start. Are you fading Jokic? I honestly haven't fully built my lineup yet because I was waiting for this Denver news. Harden, Jokic, Cat. I would say Harden, then Jokic, then Cat. Can you play both? Yeah, you can definitely play Hampton and Composo together, for sure. Yeah, so the way you fade James Harden is if you think the game blows out. If that game stays close, right? And James Harden, in 3 quarters, got 70-plus fantasy points last game. Kyrie Irving went for almost 60, right? And that was in 3 quarters. Not going to match up, but ownership will be really high. Yeah, again, so if you have a good feeling that the game blows out, then 100% you can fade Harden. It's a risky fade for sure. Like, it is pretty risky. TLC and cash? I don't think I would play TLC and cash. I would rather get to the Boston. I'd rather get to Thompson. I'd rather get to Hampton, Campozo, JaMychal Green. I'd probably rather get to those guys for like a cash game setting. Hampton is starting on RotoWire. Okay, so again, let's see. Do they have it on Fantasy Labs yet? I don't see it yet. But yeah, Hampton starts, and I prefer him to Campozo. But again, I like them both for value, a good amount, for sure. Does this Jones look good at all? Derek Jones, you mean? I think Derek Jones Jr. is a decent value. I think he has to play probably about 30 minutes. Thoughts on LeBron? LeBron, Campozo, Derek Jones Jr., Green, Williams, Harden, TLC, and Jokic. Which Williams? I'm guessing, is that Kenrich Williams? Or Robert? Wait, which Williams? Is it Robert Williams? There's a lot of Williams. Yeah, 100% you can play Hampton and Composer together. Point guard at 4,300. It's probably going to be one of those Denver guys. Let's see. Yeah, see, like, I don't think it's worth to play Tyus Jones here at 4-2. Like, he'll probably play 15 to 20 minutes. I just think you go down to the Boston, or not the Boston guys, the Denver guys. So Hampton and Campazzo. And these guys should, like, I don't see a way where those guys don't get a lot of minutes, right? Because Jokic, Jamal Murray, MPJ, JaMychal Green, and one of those guards is guessing where I'm starting. So that's 5. The other guard will come off the bench is 6. Najee is 7. That's 7 guys right there, right? So, like, probably one more of these guys will be in the rotation. It's going to be like an 8-man rotation. So, yeah, I have a hard time getting away from those Denver guards. Giannis or Jokic is a good question. Give me Jokic, but it's, again, that's basic coin flip. No, not even close to a must-play in cash games. I don't think you should be looking at MPJ. I think this is stars and scrubs for cash. Yes, you can definitely play Campazzo and Hampton together. Again, I'm guessing there's going to be like an 8-man rotation. They're both basically mid-price. Yeah, that game was a blowout too. That game where Harden only played 29. He didn't play at all in the 4th. Jokic or Giannis at center. Again, I'll slightly give that to Jokic, but I do love both a lot. I'm watching you on data right now because power's out. Oh, damn. Hopefully the power comes back for you soon. Giannis, Brown stack, and cash, I'm perfectly fine with that. Like, you got to make tough calls with the stars. I don't really have a super strong take on Giannis versus LeBron versus Jokic versus Lillard versus Harden. I would say try to get 2 or 3 of those guys in. Basically on the Thunder. The Thunder are all kind of secondary plays for me. I need to see the starting lineup, but like with Maladon back, it really does hurt everyone. Are you liking this Jones? I'm guessing, again, that's Derek Jones. Harden to lock in cash. I don't think I fade him in cash games. I think you can fade him in tournaments. Maladon and play for cash. I'm curious to see if he's going to be on a minutes limit. I'm guessing he will be, but we don't know for sure. Green and Bruce Brown or Derek Jones Jr. and Portis. I guess the first one and just hope the minutes are there for Green and Bruce Brown. Power forward play depends on what range you're looking on. I think, obviously Giannis at the top is the guy. Mid-range has not a ton I like in the mid-range. Again, I really think it's a setting up for the stars and scrubs. You can take a shot in Bobby Portis and hope the minutes are there. But, then you got the value guys like a Derek Jones Jr., you have JaMychal Green for value. You have Jared Vanderbilt for value. That's probably where I'm looking. Dort, okay. I mean, I am not a big Lou Dort guy, but what's his price at? He's at 5.4. I personally feel it's a little bit pricey, but especially Maladon back, you never know. He could have one of those games that gets like 3-4 steals. Thoughts on Semi Ojeleye? I don't want to play Semi. I would rather play Robert Williams because he's a better point per guy. Nanji or Bull? Nanji. Just because he played last game. Kyle Anderson, filler play, fine. Filler play. Campazzo and Hampton and cash, yes. Jamal Murray and Ja sneaky GBP plays, yeah, they both will be low owned because everyone's going to go to the stars at the top. But both have upside. We've seen Ja and Jamal both go for 50 plus. Horford or Cantor, give me Horford there. Morris is out. I'm running two stars to Jamal Murray. That's fine. All right, guys, couple more minutes here. I got to update a couple things here for Patreon, so got to get out here a little bit early. Robert Williams and Tristan Thompson together, I think you could do that. Unless Brad Stevens does something weird where he runs Seme or Grant Williams at the 5, he might. Again, I really do not like Brad Stevens as a coach for DFS because you could never trust that center rotation. My guess is it's going to be a combination of Thompson or Robert Williams, but if they add Seme or they add Grant Williams to the center rotation, then that makes them riskier. So it's like, yes, you can do that, but there's always risk because it's Brad Stevens. JaMychal Green's a good value for sure. Ingram or Middleton? Give me Middleton there. Thoughts on Hampton, Campazzo, Derek Jones Jr., Najee, Horford, Booker, LeBron, and Jordan? I think it's a good lineup, yeah. More than half. Oh, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot. Harden, Simons, Porter Jr., Tatum, Robert Williams, James. Okay, I think it's solid. Again, I don't love Anthony Simons. What's his price at? He'll probably have to play mid-20s minutes. He's at 4K. Okay, you can use Simons for value. Like, I'm guessing we get mid-20s minutes. Probably would rather get to the Denver guys for a little bit less, but Simons is firmly in play. I think Grayson Allen's, again, filler option. I think he's priced about right, so it's like not going to kill you, but not a must either. 4 Nuggets too much? No, I think you can do it. Joe Harris from Brooklyn, his role doesn't really change. Like, I think he gets 30-ish minutes. It's just a matter of does he hit a shot. So like we've seen some upside Joe Harris games, but he has hit his shots. Do you like Horton Tucker? He's a risky value play. Not sure on his minutes. I'm a big THT fan because he won me, a lot of you guys, a lot of money in the preseason. But minutes for the regular season, they've kind of been up and down. So in play, but a riskier value. Would you play Hampton and Capella? Yes. You can play them both together for sure because they're that cheap. Harden, Simons, Porter. Okay, all right, I went over that. You like Ayton for cash? Ayton's just, I love the matchup, but he's so up and down. He's busted in really good matchups, so it's like I always am a little bit hesitant to play DeAndre Ayton in cash. I do like him for tournaments, but like, again, his inconsistent nature always makes him risky for cash. I think I'd rather just get to the two or three stars, all those guys I mentioned. Harden and Campazzo, Derek Jones Jr., Giannis, Jokic, RJ. Yeah, that's something where I'm looking for like a lineup, right? Try to get 2 or 3 of those, probably 3 of those stars if you can. 4 Nuggets too many is fine because they're really thin. Should be probably an 8-man rotation. We'll see what they do with the lineup. Harden, Jaylen Brown, Kendrick Williams, Michael Green, Jokic, Hampton, Jones Jr., Tristan Thompson. Okay, again, I'm not in love with Jaylen Brown, not in love with Kendrick Williams, but they're not out of play. Daniel Tyson, he is out. I'm assuming Tristan Thompson starts to the center. Ingram, Slow-Mo have had so many high-scoring matchups against each other. Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't really look into that data like that, but like if that's something you really like, then go for it. Again, I think Ingram is a guy that can go for 45 for sure. Is he a must play in the slate though? No, not for me. Zeke or Campazzo? Campazzo right now for me. Porter Jr. or Kuzma? I don't love the pricing in either. I guess I'll take the discount and Porter Jr. Williams or Thompson? Thompson. Keep killing it, DK. Hey, thanks. Haven't seen you in a bit, so I hope you're doing well. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Who are you feeling between Grayson Allen and Justin Jackson tourney play? Grayson Allen. I'm not really on Justin Jackson. He's a low usage guy who's had a couple of good games. Norman Powell a little bit pricey. JVL or Horford. Robert Williams and cash. It's like the reason I'm a little bit hesitant there is because it's Brad Stevens. You just never know. You just really like. I would not be super surprised if he plays 10 minutes tonight, and then you're just really tilted. But like again, they could do something weird. So Maladon is starting with Dort, Williams, Bazley, and Horford. Okay. I'm curious to see if Maladon's going to be a minutes limit. I haven't seen anything. If he's not, I think he's actually a decent play at his price. Hampton or Campazzo, I'd prefer whoever starts. Ojale in play. I think I'd rather take a shot on Robert Williams. Thompson or Simons for cash. Thompson, assuming he starts. I'm guessing he does. Devin Booker and Schroeder or Jokic and Landry Shamet. Probably Jokic and Shamet. I mean, depends where you're playing. Cash games would be the first one. GBPs, I'm fine taking the second one. Jaylen Brown and Tristan Thompson or Booker and Robert Williams. I do prefer Booker to Brown, but Robert Williams is a lot riskier than Thompson. So GPP, I'll say the second one. Cash game's the first one. All right. One more question here that I do to get out of here, guys. Again, sorry, I got to update a couple things for Patreon. 4,700 and utility. This is the last question. 4,700 and utility. This is not a range I love. I think Grayson Allen would probably be it. Let's see. DeAndre Jordan if he starts. So, and then you have JaMychal Green too, I guess. That is a late game, so it's hard to say right now. I'm going to say, since Denver's the early game, if JaMychal Green starts, go JaMychal Green there. If he doesn't start, then you can look to maybe a guy like DeAndre Jordan. I'm assuming DeAndre Jordan starts. I think he's a decent value. But that's going to do it, guys. Here, let's refresh one more time. I think we're all up to date. We're still waiting on the Denver starting lineup news. I'm guessing it's going to be Jokic, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., JaMychal Green, and one F. Campazzo or RJ Hampton. So good luck to you guys. I hope you guys have a great night. I'll be back here for another stream on Wednesday. So I will see you guys all then.